Now it's time for Multifamily Weekend update with your hosts, Justin Dilley and Eric Sharp. Hey!
Hey, good Friday, Justin.
A good Friday to you. We made it. It's been a week. Busy week. But we're here.
We're almost at the end of August.
We're almost at the end of August. Yeah, this is the last Friday in August. And a lot of things happen this week. Budget season, a lot of camps and travel and events and all this stuff. Some high news, some low news this week. We lost a lot of people that we'll probably talk about some of them later.
We did lose some good people this week.
Yeah.
We should start out with a nice quote for that, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so those that aren't familiar with Tagore, this is a quote from Rabindranath Tagore, who's an Indian poet. The butterfly counts not months, but moments, and has time enough. And I think it's appropriate for this week. There's been a lot of moments, and we'll start with one of them. Let's start with a moment.
Yeah, the biggest news of the moment. Yeah.
Biggest news of the moment. This segment's brought to you by Rentana. It's an AI-powered revenue intelligence platform for multifamily owners and operators. One of their tools, Ask Rentana, answers portfolio questions using an operator's own data, their own strategy, and market conditions. And it shows the reasoning behind the answer, not just a number with nothing backing it up. It launched just in June, and customers are already seeing big gains from it. I want to start with a quote from one of them because, well, it's better than anything we'd write.
Yeah. Well, let's hear it then. Yeah.
This is a director of revenue management at an NMHC top 10 property management company. Direct quote, I use Ask Rentana as my AI analyst every day. It's remarkable. What used to take me weeks to forecast, such as absorption schedules, now takes minutes. It saved me from days of manual data work, and it acts as a strategic partner that identifies what other operational levers, not pricing, are the real driver of performance.
Okay. Yeah. So you're getting like days of the work back, right? Every week. That's not a small claim.
No, it's not. And power users are already averaging more than 10 Ask Rentana conversations a week. And get this, currently 72% of Ask Rentana users aren't even on the revenue management team. This is showing up across entire organizations, property levels, all the way up.
So that's a lot of people getting the same quality insights. A revenue manager used to be the only one getting access to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're not just reviewing performance after the fact.
No, they're leveling up because they've got information they didn't have before, and they're learning from it on their own without anyone walking them through a report. A dashboard shows you what happened. Ask Rentana tells you why it happened with suggestions of what to do next.
Okay. All right. Well, but there's no like separate system to learn for any of this.
That's the part people don't expect. You're not learning software. You're asking a question in the way you ask your coworker. If you know what you want to know, you already know how to use it.
Awesome. So Ask Rentana, it's been live since June, and this is what it's already doing across their customer base.
Yeah, check them out at rentana.io. And thanks to Rentana for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah, appreciate it, Rentana.
And now there's more industry news and more industry highlights, right?
All right, let's hear it. Here's what's new in news this week.
Top of the charts here. Top of the charts,
Justin.
What's on our billboard? What's on our billboard?
What do we got on the billboards this week? Well, one of the big ones is Seattle officially banned junk fees. That's the biggie.
Yes. This happened a couple weeks ago. A few folks, I think Sherry Druckman was one of the first people to post about it, but there's been a lot of talk about it since then.
Yeah. So, of course, the FTC has been going after junk fees for, I mean, really quite some time at this point. But the city council unanimously approved this junk fee legislation, which is taking aim at the rental market. And they're looking to try to make things more transparent and affordable. But really, what it boils down to is they're trying to make sure that listings are showing all the total costs. And as on the multifamily side, we understand how difficult that can be. Like, there's lots of variable costs, but there's a lot of, basically sunken costs that are oftentimes hidden. So, for example, if you have a pet, obviously you have to pay a fee if you have a pet. So, demonstrating those fees up front, making them very visible to renters so that they don't discover these monthly fees or one-time fees moving forward is what they're really targeting, things like that.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, and then I know Jay Parsons actually kind of broke this down at some point. He has a piece on it. Some other folks kind of broke this down. So it's definitely, Pet Screening spoke up about this and they kind of explained some of the stuff. So it's nice to see all these different angles of how this is affecting people. Definitely in the discourse in the last couple weeks.
That's right. Okay, how about some rent control, baby? A lot of talk about
Yeah.
rent control these days. And the Wall Street Journal finally agrees with us.
Okay.
Can rent control fix the housing crisis? No, it's time for some Econ 101. Rent control sounds like a simple enough idea. Housing is too expensive, so why don't we stop landlords from charging so much money? Yay! Wrong. The main reason why rents rise is that there aren't enough housing units for the number of people who want to live in a given city. With many people competing for the same apartments, landlords rationally set rents at the highest amount they think someone is willing to pay. Rent control sets a ceiling on how much landlords can charge, but it doesn't solve the underlying housing shortage. It actually makes things worse because developers don't want to build new units if they think they can be legally prohibited from charging enough to earn back their investment. Almost half of the rental apartments in New York are rent regulated. About 50,000 of them stand empty, many of them because their landlords can't charge enough to make up for the cost of necessary repairs. So how do you lower rents? Build more housing. Cities like Austin, Denver, and Phoenix have recently seen a huge increase in building and a decrease in rents. Lots of people want to move to these cities, but the housing supply can keep up, so landlords have to compete with each other to attract new tenants, which they do by lowering prices.
Look at that. Supply and demand. Imagine that. That's actually what helps lower prices on rent.
I feel like our industry has been saying that a long time.
We have, I'm not the biggest fan of, really paying people to persuade, our legislation. But, at the end of the day, it does seem pretty simple. I understand reducing, increases of rent on folks that, can't afford rent. And that's why we have affordable housing. We have low income housing tax credits, to help developers build housing that allows for people who live below the certain threshold to afford that housing, right? You do something along the lines of, 15 to 30%, affordable units so that folks can afford to live there and still go to work, go to school.
Right.
All right. What else is next here, Justin?
Well, this week, virtually multifamily demo day happened. It's become, I think people are now participating in it, in different ways. Everyone has kind of been part of it at some point. A lot of folks look forward to it. People like to comment on it. There's lots of different kinds of speakers. It's exciting for, suppliers and product people to actually get a chance to get in front of so many. So it was this week over a 2-day period. This year I wasn't able to attend. I know last year I attended part of it, and I think I commented or was like helped comment or drive, some conversation or organized conversation during one of them. I did notice a post from Brent Williams who kind of was sharing some of the trends they typically don't see, which was, over time throughout the day, it seemed like the attendance increased, which is, that's maybe people are saying things. Maybe people said, "Hey, this session's really good. Hop on here if you're online." And so that's kind of a nice, it's a nice statistic, right? A lot of times virtual events have a high, start, and then they decrease over a period of time throughout the day. Um, but yeah, congrats to Multifamily Insiders, and congrats to all the people that got the opportunity to maybe get their ideas in front of people that they wouldn't have before.
Awesome. Yeah. Very fun event for sure. I've definitely attended one or two of them. Really enjoy it. As someone been in prop tech and real estate for a while now. It's just wonderful to see all the new names, but also some existing folks in the
Yeah, see how
industry.
people have changed, and see what also people are interested in, what questions people are asking. Because being in software sales for as long as I have, the idea of a demo has changed drastically from when it first started. Drastically, and that's gonna be a whole other show or deep dive, is just how that has changed. But what's our last industry highlight here?
Yeah, the Multifamily Media Network is closing in on 5,000 followers. So kudos to them. They're
Yes.
almost there.
Expanding their network. That's very exciting. If you aren't following Multifamily Media Network on LinkedIn, make sure to click that little follow button. That'll give you information on our show, but also all these other podcasts that are very focused and niche. It'll give you ways to get involved or invited to events, or even if you have something that you've been wanting to talk about, there's a lot of different channels and mediums for you to get your ideas out there, whether they're more just thought leadership or product based. There's a lot of different ways to be part of that network.
Awesome. There's a QR code for anyone who wants to go off and follow them.
There we go. Another QR code, the day of QR codes. Well, I think some of these notes are a little out of order. But let me grab this here while we're talking.
Yeah,
The worst.
yeah. We wanted to spend the second half of today's discussion around someone that we cherish very much, and I think a lot of Americans would agree. It's one of the few things that a lot of Americans agree about. This is that we love Dolly Parton.
Yeah, I was at an industry event when sort of this news broke. There was definitely audible reactions across everybody. Um, I think, before we dig into to a couple more things quickly, what is your connection to, briefly, Eric? What's your connection to this person, or how did you first know about Dolly, or what is she meant to you?
I think I first remember her from watching her, on TV when I was a kid. It was probably a late night, host or something like that. Probably interviewed her, and I thought, holy cow, here's this like wild woman, quite robust physically, in many ways. But I mean, holy cow, she could sing. That was kind of my first impressions of her, and I was quite fortunate to go to Nashville about a year ago and learn a lot more about her life
Mhm.
at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum.
Or the Country
There.
Music Hall of Fame.
Country music, sorry.
Yeah, the rock and roll one is in Cleveland, and I think
That's what I was gonna say. I was there.
she's now in that. She got inducted in that just not maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, no, the stories, the letters. I mean, I've never really been affected so deeply by a celebrity before. But I think it's partially because she doesn't feel that way. Like, everyone has a very personal connection. I probably have too many things to share about it, so I'm not going to. But I will say that living in the South, being part of the Dollywood culture, being part of country music culture, it's affected a lot of things. But there's a podcast that I've posted about before on LinkedIn and other places. It's called Dolly Parton's America, and it's done by the son, an Indian man, that his dad was a doctor that took care of Dolly maybe when she was sick with something about maybe like 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Because this guy was in media, he got access to Dolly Parton because of his dad, and she thought this guy was great. And there was this whole limited series, comparing Appalachia, Dolly's childhood to his own father. And he kind of grew, as he grew to love Dolly Parton more, he actually got closer to his father. It's a very beautiful story, very beautiful work, but it just shows that somebody that's kind of giving back and open, how that just is like a ripple effect. So, yeah. So, we're not just going to talk about how great Dolly was as a person. She was also a really smart real estate person and businesswoman.
She was. She was. You mentioned Dollywood before.
I did.
Started out as a theme park.
Uh-huh. And it wasn't hers, right? It was a different theme park. It was owned by Silver Dollar City in Tennessee. And she decided to partner with them, invest in them, and eventually buy them out and partner with somebody else. But I think in the idea of taking real estate and kind of transforming an entire community, not just with a vision of making money, but a vision with transforming lives, like giving people jobs, giving places. It was now becoming a tourist spot, right? People that would never go to the Smokies are now going there to see this. So.
Yeah, I think there's a report, something like the financial impact of the region is about $1.8 billion annually.
Yeah.
For Sevier County. And they're the largest employer there. It's kind of like a Disney World for Tennessee, which is a big deal because Tennessee, is middle America.
Right. And I think just when you are thinking of, developing neighborhoods and communities, which is what multifamily does a lot. And oftentimes it's for places for people to live, but there's no reason that developments can't have a greater purpose, which is to what else can we add to this community? What can we bring into this community? So the retail spaces that you bring in and how you go about, curating those moments where you decide to change land into, rented spaces, can have a large effect. And so I think it's a good reminder of how transformative that can really be beyond just putting together a very well operating and profitable real estate venture. And speaking of real estate ventures, this is sort of the other big story that folks might have heard of. This very historic studio, RCA Studio B in Nashville, was in a very, very kind of rundown and very black neighborhood, sort of when Dolly kind of approached and put money into this. So she ended up buying these studios. There's a whole bunch of them in this area and kind of creating a complex. And she calls it, or people call it, the house that Whitney built. And the reason behind that was, as folks might know, Dolly Parton wrote the song "I Will Always Love You." She would not. Elvis wanted to record it, but he required, ownership rights, and she said no. And then years later, they needed a song for a movie. Whitney Houston said, "I will record it." She didn't own the rights, but she did record it. She made a lot of money off of it. It became one of the greatest selling song of all time. And so that money that Dolly Parton made from that, she invested into a neighborhood in Nashville.
That's a great story, Justin. Thank you for uncovering this and for walking us through the transition of life that she has gone through. And as her family has said, she's now up in the heavens with all of her friends who are welcoming her with open arms.
Yeah.
So we're going to move into the later half of our show here with a quote of the week.
Something completely different. Is this the quote? Significant mean detected?
No. So something that's kind of been going around the internet these days is folks are talking about meat and AI, and that's kind of an interesting term. Right. So what does that mean exactly? Well, this is something called MEAT, And the quote of the week comes from our good friend Mike Wolber. And he is essentially arguing that I'll let you read the quote here.
Keep the thought, the depth, the perspective. Just make it easier to read.
So Mike Wolber is talking about and really arguing that a lot of folks are going straight to AI, getting summaries and just shipping it and expecting teams to read through the summary, without AI and then come up with some level of an agreement. And Mike, I think, accurately describes the issue, which is, you should be personally writing down your thoughts, coming together as a group to gather some groupthink, and then take that and use AI to analyze the groupthink, potentially removing the bias out of there and ultimately allowing AI to help refine the end product, but not to be the beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I would argue that also the refinement needs human eyes as well. So I think, being able to say, hey, once you refine this, don't necessarily take what AI spits out right away, but as you refine that down, okay, that's being refined and being slanted this way. I don't want to go that way. I want to go this way. You have to tilt it back. If you took a journalism class, and I assume they still teach these, but who knows anymore. But back when I was in college, journalism, we had to do that process on ourselves. So you had to take the meat of the article, the meat of the story, and boil it down and boil it down and boil it down to get the headline, so that the headline was accurately, not click. There was no such thing as clickbait because that didn't really exist on Netscape. Um, but it was like boiling it down to what it actually means, and I think that takes a little bit of human stuff as well.
Yeah. So of course, and I have a QR code for us for this, but Mike posted, this link to Are You a Meat Proxy? And helps you figure out if you're a meat proxy or if you know someone who's a meat proxy. Are you literally just taking what AI says and posting it and using it without using your brain?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just a proxy for the computers, for AI, right?
Yeah.
Are you an agent, a meat agent, if you will?
Yeah. Great commentary. Important for this industry to remember, but sort of all industries, to be honest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's close out this show. I know we've got to get ready for the weekend. But I think you have a moment of wonder for us, correct?
A nice warm way to end things, a bonus, if you will.
I have a property management funny for you guys today. I'm on site at a due diligence in White Settlement. We are walking all the units as a part of our process. We find out that there's been 16 units converted from 2 bedrooms into 1 bedrooms. The management said that they had more of a demand for 1 bedrooms than 2s. So let me show you what they did to this floor plan to turn it from a 2 bedroom into a 1. See my finger? Tracing the line of what is a sheetrock repair, but was a door to a whole nother bedroom that was completely cut out of this floor plan. So I'm going to call my client and say, we just found $150 a month. Let's just put a door back.
Nothing wrong with finding some free money there. Thank you all for coming to the show. We're officially in season 3. And it's just on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.